But in 1979, the March on Washington, and there were two marching bands that came. And I do believe one was from Los Angeles, the other one was from Houston. Yeah. And that was pretty neat and inspiring. And they just started popping up all over. I didn't realize how many there were. There were about, what, 7 of us across the country back then.
We were amazed to find out there were other bands out there.
Everything then, we didn't have, I mean, yes, there were computers, but there was no email, any of that. Everything was phone calls, landline, and, mail, snail mail.
Yeah.
Oh, crazy.
Long distance phone call.
Yeah, long distance phone call.
So we all were aware already that San Francisco and LA had started the whole show. And then then I burst into the scene, Dallas, and everybody else came along. And so then at the time we were all doing snail mail and phone. There was nothing else.
I think there was a band in San Francisco, LA, DC, New York, and they started one in Chicago. And the guy who was running that, he contacted all the existing bands that he knew about and said, I think the whole thing was his idea. Let's get together, have a meeting in Chicago because it's centrally located. And also that's where he lived.
I honestly don't remember if Jim Cochran heard about it or if Harvey heard about it or somebody heard about that the national group, a bunch of people were going to get together in Chicago in a month. And our first conductor, Jim Cochran, had the ability. So we said, well, we'll go and see what this is about. So a month later, there we were in Chicago with all of these people, San Francisco that had been around for a long time, DC, New York, Chicago.
We met at his mother's house, this guy's mother's house. And they found us housing. We all stayed with different people and they wanted to make it as cheap as possible.
And I have pictures that I took from that first conference. And we're all just a bunch of kids. Les and his partner, husband at the time, were kind of the hosts. We met at a church because they were doing a concert that weekend.
Everything worked, right? Anyway, that evening when I show up at the venue, at the Wellington Church, something came over me and it was just electric. It was just electric. I mean, it was just, the feeling was like there was something big that was going to happen.
It was just so exciting that none of us could shut up talking to each other. And it was, I get goosebumps thinking about it. It was a good time was had by all, let me tell you that.
Everybody was just so excited to get something going.
It was like a bunch of band musicians sitting around the table talking about fun. I mean, it was really fun. We knew we had a short timeline to get stuff done, just a couple days. So it was, I don't want to say intense because it was very energetic.
So how did you guys come up with the name?
I had the sheet, legal pad of the 20 things the Minnesota band was thinking about. One was sissies on saxes and dykes on drums.
At that point in time, it was a pretty big deal to all of us.
It had to be lesbian and gay. So there was the first two words.
Yep.
And then it was like band, you know, it was kind of a no-brainer. Everybody starts, you know, scribbling out the LGBA and trying to make a good sounding acronym, but
Right.
LIGBA was what it turned out to
Right,
be. But
right.
there was me, Mary Barr, and Shannon Bartlett.
Yeah.
Three very strong women.
Right.
And we were all like, it's lesbian and gay. And the guys are like, okay.
We were all like, you know, this is the time, if we're gonna do this and see where it goes, let's be honest about who we represent.
We all just kind of clicked, you know, and we had a great time, and the work was it was a very productive meeting. You know, the people who were there were good organizing people, but everybody had ideas, and we all discussed them, and it just kind of, at the end of the weekend, we had a name, we had an organization, and we had a blueprint for what we were going to be doing.
Well, the meeting was held in the house, Les's house, I believe. And I remember that, given the night before, people were like laying on the floor. Or the major thing that came out of it is naming the organization and where were we going to get together next. It had to have the word lesbian in there, had to have the word gay, and Bands of America.
As we talked and got excited, we didn't want to lose this excitement. And so we decided, let's have a meeting every 6 months.
The other missions, as I recall, in our mission, you know, what we wanted to do was share music, help new bands get started so that they didn't have to reinvent the wheel, and meet every 6 months. I think we decided on every 6 months, and it would be meetings and a concert. Send you know, representatives from each band, and let's form this, you know, let's figure out a way to keep in touch with each other and learn from each other. I think it was mostly about sharing music at the beginning.
I talked to Trudy, and Trudy said that the weekend was a big party. Is that true?
Trudy, we did go to a bar, and Trudy, I don't know, did she tell you she got hit on by the gay boys in the bar? She was wearing an A shirt. She had her very butch haircut. So from here up, she looked like a hot young guy, and she was getting hit on.
We partied very hard. I think we got Mary Barr to take, I think we gave her a tab of acid.
You would call we partied. I mean, we were nonstop talking, just nonstop talking. And we went to this house, if I remember correctly, and I think that was the first time I ever took LSD.
It was quite the scene.
I think there was some hanky and some panky and some hanky panky. And I think this is when what happens at an LGBA conference stays at an LGBA conference.
Did you have any idea that it would become what it's become? I mean, did you think at the time, like, this is going to be something that's going to last, you know, forever, and be a big going concern?
Well, I think we all hoped, because we knew, even in our little groups, there's got to be a couple more people like me, and maybe there's a couple hundred more people like me, and maybe we can outreach to every state and see if we can't, you know, grow this band thing, and yeah, go from there.
Have a band, grow your family, and you know, it's a national family and an international family.
Yes, I did. And I'll tell you why. Because we were all pretty much about the same age.
Mm-hmm.
I think within 10 years of each other. So we were all children of the 60s
Mm-hmm.
and 70s with the, you know, the anti-war protests, and we had all that, and the women's movement. We had all that energy and gay pride,
Right.
if you will. And so, and everybody that was there was from a successful band that was a going concern and already making a difference in their community and doing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It was like it just kind of appeared and then became this force. And it was powered by people like Mary Barr. She was really big
Mm-hmm.
in the early years.
Yeah, and people would leave their bands and move to another city, and so they were planted and they grew. I'm just like so happy. I don't know what I thought back then, but I, you know, for years and years, I was involved and kept going and growing, and it's just marvelous. It's freaking 40 years later, and people are still meeting and getting together and playing music.
I'm so happy that it's still going on and
Yep.
getting bigger and better and marching in inaugural parades now.
Right.
And, you know, I mean, stuff that we only dreamed of
Right.
back in the day.
Congratulations on 40 years. Very proud to be a part of this.